Hi everyone. So in this topic, you will be learn about the requirement of the Poison Act and Dangerous Drug Act in relation to the pharmacy and pharmacies. In this video, you will be learn about six learning outcome. The first one, Poison Act 1952, the difference between the poison list part 1, A, B, C, and D, and then with the part 2, the poison list, the section 8, 9, 12, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21, 22, 24, and 26, and the poison regulation 10, 12, 9, and 23. And then there will be some of the registrations of the pharmacist role positions, and the last one is the psychotropic section 30 and the dangerous drug at TDA. Under the first learning objective, which is Poison Act, it's an act to regulate the importation, possession, manufacturing, compounding, storage, transport, sale, and the use of the poisons. So it's an act that act from the first step until the last step before it end to the customer or to the patient. So due to this Act of Poison Act 1952, the Poison Board is established and serves to advise the Ministry of Health under the following objective, which is to classify the chemicals in the poison, reclassification under the poison list, removal of the poison list, amendment and additions of the third and second schedule. In this figure, the pharmaceutical products can be categorized into the scheduled poison A or control medication and the non-scheduled poison X, OTC or GCM. For this scheduled poison A or control medication, it can be defined as pharmaceutical products which contain scheduled poison as listed in the first schedule under the Poison Act 1952. For example, biological, new drugs, scheduled poison, generic such as antibiotics, antihypertensive, and antidiabetics. The non-scheduled poison category as OTC or GCM is the products containing active ingredients which are not listed in the first schedule under Poison Act 1952, and it's excluding the active ingredient, which is categorized under the health supplement or natural products or cosmetic. For example, such as analgesic drug of paracetamol, topical antiseptic, sore throat preparations, laxative, or anti-acne products. So under the scheduled poison, it can further subcategorize under the group A, group B, C, and D. We will further investigate and identify the definitions of the group A, B, C, and D under the scheduled poison A. So under the Poison Act, poison it can be defined as any means of substance specified by name in the first column of the poison list and includes any preparation, solution, compound, mixture, or natural substance containing. So let's take a closer look in this figure. As you can see under the poison list of the first schedule, the four column of the part 1. Part 1 can be further subcategory under the group A, B, C, and D. Meanwhile, there's another part 2 and the last column is the exempted preparation. So basically, this is the same figure as before. As I've mentioned before, part 1 poison, it means a group A, B, C, and D specified in the column of the poison list entitled the part 1 of the first schedule. For the part 2, it's the poison which include the potassium permanganate, all preparations of the potassium permanganate, except the preparation containing 0.1% and less of the potassium permanganate. So let's further move to the second schedule. This is the second schedule as the articles and preparations exempted from the provisions of this Act under the section 2 and 7. Example of these are preparations such as any of the machine plaster, surgical dressing, adhesive, some of the ceramics, glue, load pencil. This is all the listed preparations that are exempted from these provisions of the Poison Act. So under the Poison Act, we have covered the first and second schedule. So this is the third schedule as the list of the psychotropic substance in this act, which is being spelled under the section 30. So this is all the psychotropic substance, including all these listed. For example, that we usually encountered in Malaysia, such as the clonazepam, clobazam, diazepam. We also have the zolpidem and etc. So basically, students, we have covered two learning objectives. The first one is the poison at 1952 and the difference between the part 1 and part 2 poison. So here come the third learning objective, which is some of the section under the poison list. So the first session, which is session 8, is mentioned about the control of the imports of the poisons. Under this section, it stated no person other than a person that licensed shall import any poison from any places outside the Malaysia. So that person's license will be covered later. The second one is this section 9 that's mentioned about the packaging, labeling, and to store of the poisons. Under section 9 stated that no person, whether the person is licensed or not, shall knowingly sell, supply, or have in the possessions under that person control the poison. Okay, so the third one is the section 12. Section 12 mentioned about the control to compound of the poison for the use in the medical treatment. Under section 12 is stated no person shall dispense, compound, or mix any of the poison with any of the substance, whether the substance is poison or not, for the medical treatment, unless that person is a registered pharmacist, the person that employed in the hospital in the government of health in Malaysia, and a registered medical practitioner. The fourth one is the section 16 that stated about the sale of the poison by retail. Subject to the section 18, it stated that no poison shall be sold by retail except by a person that licensed to sell such poison by retail and in accordance with the terms and conditions of such license. And then next, the section 17, it mentioned about the prohibitions of the sales of the poison to the any person under the age of 18 years old. It stated that no poison shall be sold or supplied to any person under 18 years of age, otherwise than for the purpose of the medical treatment of that person. And then it's under the section 19, it stated about the supply of the poison for the purpose of treatment by the professional man. Under this section, it stated any poison other than a group A poison may be sold, supplied, or administered by the following person for the following purpose. So the person is the registered medical practitioner, registered dentist, and the veterinary officer. The next one is the section 20 that's mentioned about the group A poison. So if the students would like to know the differences between the group A, B, C, and D and the example of that poison, please take a look at the slides material that have been provided in the near future. So group A poison under the section 20 being stated that it shall not be sold or supplied by the wholesale or retail except by the licensed wholesaler and by a licensed wholesaler to be immediately exported to a purchaser outside the Malaysia. Next, under section 21, the group B poison, it's mentioned that it shall not be sold or supplied by the retail to any person except by a registered medical practitioner, registered dentist division 1, or veterinary officer, or by a licensed pharmacist as a dispensed medication with the prescription prescribed by the registered medical practitioner, registered dentist, or veterinary officer. Following the group B poisons, it mentioned that every prescriptions for any group B poison that prescribed or right by the registered medical practitioner, registered dentist, or registered veterinary officer, there shall be few of the informations. The first one, sign and date of the prescriber, address of the prescriber, name and address of the patients, total amount of the medication to be supplied and the dose of the medication, and the number of the times, which is the frequency of the medication. So in the previous slide, we have mentioned about the group A and group B poison. Under the section 22, the group C poison, it stated that it shall not be sold or supplied by retail to any person except the sale or supply of such poison. It had been a group B poison would have been authorized under or by virtue or is affected in accordance with the section 21, which is our previous section. And the group C poison, it shall be dispensed medication or an ingredient in a dispensed medication. So don't forget to take a look at the example of the products that have been attached in the slides material. For the section 24, the prescriptions books. Okay, under the prescriptions books, is that any of the poison that been sold or supplied need to be entered in the PS book or prescriptions books. We also have the group D poison. Okay, under the group D poison, it's mentioned that any sold supply shall make an entry in the poison books with the information such as name, address of the purchaser, name and address of the patient and introducer, date, name and poison with the quantity and the purpose of the medication. Last but not least is the um, section 26 that mentioned about the license of the pharmacies to import, store, and deal generally by wholesale and retail, or by wholesale only, or by retail only, subject to this act in all poison. So the type license is a type A license. So please take a look at the example of the poison A license that I have attached in the slides material as well. Okay, students, so it's time to move forward to the fourth learning objective, which is some of the regulation 10, 12, 9, and 23 under the poison regulation. So there's few of the regulations that important. The first one is the regulation 10. Regulation 10 mentioned about the labeling of the part 1 poison for sale. It's mentioned that the container of the poison, it must be labeled. The first one with the word of the poison that printed in the red font or with the red background. And if the poison or medication intended to be used externally, the another label which is not to be taken or for external use only must be pasted as well on the container, and the words of the caution must be labeled as well. And then the second one about the regulation 12. After we have label, there's another information which is about the labeling of the dispensed medications. It's mentioned that if the medication being dispensed, there's few of the information must be included. The first one, the name and address of the supplier or seller. Second, the name of the patients or customer. The third one is the name of the medication. The fourth one, adequate directions or instructions of the medication that intend to be used. The fifth one, the date of the delivery. And the last one, if the medication being sold or supplied and then it being entered in the prescriptions books, the serial number must be included as well. Apart from the regulation 10 and 12, another regulation is the regulation 9 and 23. Under the regulation 9, it stated that any poison or medication containing any poison that being sold or supplied, the container must have the control medication, or in Malay is mentioned as ubat tekawal. And then, as mentioned before, if the medication being intended to be used externally, the Another label with the not to be taken or for external use only must be printed and be pasted on the container. The last one is the Regulation 23 is mentioned about the supply of the poison to the outpatient in the hospital. Okay, so few of the information must be included as well. The first one, name, address of the hospital, pharmacy or institution, with the name of the medication, with the label of the control medication and ubat kawal. And then in the case, if the poison or medication supply not from the pharmacy hospital, but it's from the veterinary hospital, another label which is animal treatment only ataupun untuk penggunaan haiwan sahaja must be pasted as well. Okay, students, so this is the fifth learning objective, the psychotropic. So there's another there's only one of these sections that important that we need to focus, which is under section 30. Under section 30, that's related to the psychotropic substance, is mentioned about the control of the import, export, manufacturing, and the sale of the psychotropic substance in the third schedule. Under this section, it stated no person shall import, export, manufacturing, compound, mix, dispense, sell, supply, administer, possess, or use any of the psychotropic otherwise in accordance with any of the regulation. So students, don't forget to take a look at the example of the third schedule of the psychotropic substance under section 30 in the material, in the slides material. Last but not least is the last learning objective, which is the ROPA. ROPA means the registrations of the pharmacies. ROPA mentioned that there's some of the privilege of the pharmacies that stated only licensed pharmacies to import, only licensed pharmacies to do wholesale business, and only pharmacies to be the drug enforcement officer. And the last one, only pharmacies to dispense, compound, and mix the poison. So basically, that's the last section under section 31 that's mentioned about the privilege or the power of the investigations, examination, and entry into the premise for the pharmacies. Under the section 31, it stated that the licensed officer may authorize in writing any registered pharmacy in the public service, such as drug enforcement unit, to exercise the power of a drug enforcement officer under this act. So usually the enforcement pharmacies will work to ambush or investigate any of the post-marketing medication or products that being sell to the customer or to the patient. Okay, students, so basically this is some of the summary. Before you proceed to the slides material, kindly make your time to answer some of the question that I have attached, and then we will have some of the discussion. I'll choose some of the students to answer the question, and we will have some of the discussion during the classes. So don't forget to take a look at the slides material as well, since some of the example of the poison being attached in that slides. Thank you.